ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Polyhedron Cladcast episode 26. I'm Stephen Polyhedron Collider, and I am joined today by...
Andy Lewis from Polyhedron Collider. Funny that, eh?
No Mr. Cage today. He is actually back in the country, but only just.
Yes, I imagine he's suffering a little bit of jet lag.
Yes.
Because he's on, Boston time or wherever the hell he's been.
That's Chicago time? I don't know. My
Chicago.
American geography's terrible. Don't work there anymore.
No one is going to get that joke. I didn't even get that bloody joke.
Do you not get that joke?
No.
It's a rugby song.
Right, that says it all, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, I think we should stop.
We should move on.
Move on very quickly. Anyway,
for the benefit of our American viewers who don't know what the fuck rugby is.
Well, I think for the benefit of most of our viewers who aren't unbelievably sexist, we should move on as well. So, today's episode will be all about the UK Games Expo 2017.
It was pretty good, wasn't it not?
It was pretty good. Now, one thing I should say, it's Wednesday. The Games Expo was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We are both still knackered.
Yep. I couldn't get my grammar right just then, as there's evidence for you. Yep, knackered, still sleeping something like 12 hours and needing more. Yeah, we were busy.
Yeah, it was a busy weekend, wasn't it?
Very good weekend, though.
It was a very good weekend. We saw lots of games. We saw lots of people.
Mm-hmm.
We saw designers, we saw publishers, we saw other punters, friends, people who listened to the show as well, which was quite nice.
Yes! We actually had people stop us in the streets, but the rows, the aisles. And, oh my God, it's PHC! Or words to that effect, which was nice. Weird,
which was nice.
But nice.
Yes.
I think we need an entourage now, Steve.
No, we don't need an entourage, mate.
Or groupies.
What? I don't think we're ever going to get groupies, mate.
No, I don't think. Roadies, maybe. I was described as celebrity twice that weekend. Twice!
Was at least one of them ironic?
I'd like to think not, but probably.
I think one of them wasn't it?
Don't ruin the illusion for me.
I don't want you getting too big-headed, it's just for your own good.
Too late.
Well, yeah, that's too late. It was 15 years too late, isn't it?
Yep. 15, 20.
Anyway, let's talk about some things we saw, because we saw lots and lots of things.
We did. This is another of, where the hell do we start?
Right, so what we've done is neither of us made any notes.
Of course we didn't. That would take planning and professionalism.
And you missed out on the handy Isdevium notepad as well.
I did, god damn it, I can't believe I missed out on that. We're walking around the press pit, and there's me talking to the designers. You and Amanda come back and go, we got 3 bags. God damn it, where the hell did you get those from?
Yeah, so the first thing we did when we got to the expo is we were very lucky to be included in the press group, so we get early access to the hall, but what that means is they herd us off like a bunch of sheep into a big pen at the back of the room.
Like lambs to the slaughter.
Where a good section of the publishers and trade stands, well, not trade stands, sorry, publishers and designers have set up like a little mini version of the entire expo. And so we basically got just under an hour, just under 2 hours to go speak to as many of them as possible and basically get some kind of semblance of what's going to be exciting for the expo itself. It's really just a couple of hours prep, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Although you say you made the mistake in saying just under an hour. To be honest, even the just under 2 hours, it really did feel like about 15 minutes. It was so quick. Yeah,
it goes very quick, that does. But what was weird about the way they'd set it up is they put all the, I'd say, normal stands to one side, and then the sponsors were in like another group to the other side. And most people didn't realise the sponsors were outside this little area.
Yeah, that was like people like me, for example.
Me and Amanda actually kind of went, well, should we go and speak to those over there? And it's like, no, we're not allowed over there, surely. Well, why are they all standing there looking at us expectantly then?
Please come and talk to us, please.
So we went over there, and it was basically all the people who had stands who were sponsors of the show. So as Deviant were there, which is, if you're not in the UK or if you don't know, they're the UK's kind of main game distributor. They're owned by Asmodee, so they're all kind of that Asmodee FFG kind of group. There was Geek and Sun, there was Paizo, there was Osprey. I can't remember who else was there now.
Catan, that mob.
Yeah, but they weren't in the sponsor area there either. Neither were Hawk War Games.
Oh, really?
Hawk War Games were like the major sponsor.
I didn't see that bit of it.
Anyway, at the Devium stand, they gave like a little swag bag, which included a copy of Dobble, a little promo version of Unlock, but most importantly, it came with a bag, which was quite handy, but this little tiny notepad and pen. Little like moleskin type one with these Asmodee logo on it.
You make it sound like a blankety blank checkbook and pen.
It was nice.
It was nice, actually.
It was useful. Anyway, we didn't use it. I just took photographs of everything. So what we're going to do is go through the photographs on our phone and go, ooh, we saw this.
We did. Yeah, that's pretty much the limit of our preparation for this podcast.
So the first game we had a proper look at, and we split up at sometimes, but we stayed together at this point, was Mournequest by Backsprindle Games. Now, this was an early demo copy, so I think it's coming out, they say later in the year?
I believe so. I can't remember if they said they were going to kickstart it or not. Probably not, but I really don't know.
They don't usually kickstart. They've got a
yeah.
partnership deal with Ninja Games in America.
Okay.
So I should imagine it'll just go into normal distribution. So this was a cooperative game based on Irish mythology where you were, well, in all honesty, the general kind of fantasy cooperative thing. Encroaching darkness, fight back the darkness.
Beastie's trying to escape. You're trying to stop Beastie from escaping. You've got a limited time. You move around using various things. Various beasties come along to try and stop you and, work together, try and fight them off.
What was quite interesting about this was part of the boats rotated. So it was all to do with like phases of the moon. And so each of the kind of prisons, which had the 4 beasties in, as you said, were all rotating sections, which like counted off like how far away they were from escaping. And there was a section in the middle that's also rotated, which showed you I think it was cycles of the moon, wasn't it? Which basically the turns. So once it got to a certain moon cycle, it went on from there. We didn't get to play it. It was just like a little view of it, but it did look very pretty. And it looked interesting gameplay as well. It was they obviously put some variety in there. So it was a variety of monsters. So I think you only ever fought 4 monsters in each game, and there was a variety of characters. So it looked like it could be interesting.
Indeed.
Now, one other thing we did see just a poster for at the preview, and this wasn't actually on show at all, was a game called Gretchinz. With a Z.
Of course.
Now, all it said was a Gretchin racing game set in the Warhammer 40,000 universe, designed by the designer of Captain Sonar.
And we like Captain Sonar.
And we like Gretchin and 40k.
Sounds like a done deal to me.
So, yeah. But there was absolutely no details about this game. It was just quite literally a poster they had up. And this was Devir Studio. So, it'll be interesting to see what comes of that in the future. I should imagine they'll be announcing some details of that one soon.
And speaking of 40k, we saw 40k.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that now, actually. Yeah, 40k was there. They had loads of demo stands. We didn't actually play a game of it, though it did seem they had some quick setups. Now, one of the problems we did have throughout the entire show is we just seem to be short of time all the time.
That was insane.
We missed out on quite a few demos, to be fair. But yeah, they had lots of little 40k tables set up. It was the new miniatures box set. So it's the new Primus Space Marines and Plague. Oh, God, what's the Nurgle Space Marine chapter called?
Oh, well, not the Plague Marines. Not Plague Spawn.
Yeah, they were Plague Marines. Yeah, Plague Marines. Nurgle Space Marines, Plague Marines. Anyway, loads of them set up. Very simply painted, but still looked pretty nice. Miniatures looked, I must admit, very nice.
Mm-hmm.
However, they were huge.
They were big.
I mean, the box set comes, if you see any images, with a Terminator Chaos Lord. So it's a Nurgle Terminator Chaos Lord. And the base of it was about the same size base as it's on my current Dreadnought model.
Yeah, they were hefty.
Absolutely massive. So there's obviously a bit of size creep going on in 40k at the moment. And I did like the new Primaris Space Marines. They did look very pretty. And they did like
Mark X power armor looked rather impressive.
But this is the new, bigger Space Marines. If you've heard the fluff, it's basically Rowboat Gilliman has woken up and decided to make a new breed of Space Marines. So these are like about, whereas normal Space Marines are supposed to be like 8 foot tall, these are supposed to be like 10 foot tall. And they've all got new armour and new weapons and new guns. So you've all got new fancy new equipment. And the models are now more true scale. I don't think they're fully true scale, but they're closer to.
Yeah, they look a bit more leggy now, don't they?
Yeah, but they are absolutely huge models. They're going to tower above your normal Space Marines. And if you're going to have an army of them combined with normal Space Marines, I think they're going to look a bit weird.
Well, we were discussing this afterwards, weren't we? And it seems to be the way that Games Workshop may be going is that basically everything before version 8, which is what this version is kind of, just it didn't really happen. Just buy all the new stuff and forget about the history.
Well, I wouldn't say forget about the history. I think there's going to be some things that carry on, but I do kind of get the feeling that there is almost this kind of, now this is a separation. So if you want to play 40k 8th edition, you're going to have to buy Primaris Space Marines. Whereas if you want to play like Warhammer 30,000, well, then you'll use Space Marines. In the same way that all the stuff that was supposed to be like modern day stuff when we were growing up, like the old Land Raider and the old Rhino,
they were amazing.
Everyone now says, oh, that's the pre-heresy version. It's like, no, it's not.
No, it's not, no. That was definitely post-heresy.
Yeah. Anyway, nice models. Didn't get a chance to look at the rules, but there was a lot of people on their stand. Had a very weird conversation with an executive from Games Workshop as well. The only man in a suit for the entire weekend. Yes. The only person we saw at the entire expo wearing a proper suit, a proper businessman. And I just wandered past the Games Workshop store and he was just kind of like, hello, how are you? How's it looking? Kind of thing. So got chatting. He saw the t-shirt, asked what the t-shirt was about, explained about what we are, about the podcast. And then he's like, well, what kind of podcast is it? And you've never realised how difficult it is to describe what it is you're listening to at the moment to a man in a suit who I found out runs the entire retail arm of Games Workshop.
I could imagine that's an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
You should have said we are the Top Gear of tabletop gaming.
It didn't cross my mind. All that was running through my head is it's 3 pillocks talking about games. That's all. I
believe that's what I just said.
I didn't want to say that it's something important, did I?
Well, no, that's true. But yeah, that was good. It was a good stand because obviously we talked in the last cast of the preview rather than the current review, where we knew the Games Workshop stand would be reasonably large, but it wasn't massive, but it was definitely there.
Yes, and there's plenty there to play. I thought it was definitely plenty to have a look at.
It was good. It was interesting, and there was a lot of bling, of course, because it's Games Workshop.
So, speaking of miniatures, we also had a quick look at Runewars.
Yes, we did. Oh, good lord, that was pretty.
That was the display stand for that was amazing, wasn't it?
I'm surprised the Worm Rider miniatures got away without my drool all over them. I really want one of them. They are amazing miniatures. Not that we're interested in bling at all.
They had a couple of setups of the base game itself, and then they had this one major stand which had set up so you could play it, but like towards the background, like a ruined castle, like a ruined abbey kind of thing, didn't they? But that was like a mega game, which included, I think, like 3 box sets combined.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, it was big because it had massive golems and it had sort of unique, almost like Primarch, effectively, sort of that sort of status of sort of captains and stuff.
Oh yeah, it had because the golem you get in the base box set, I believe.
Yeah.
But this had 3 golems. It had like 2 in a regiment and 1 on their own, and then it had huge, massive blocks of troops.
Yeah, and then characters as well. Almost like, I say Worm Riders, they almost look like the worms from Dune. Those big beasties that somebody sat on riding. Not quite as big as the worms from Dune, but that sort of idea, with someone sat on a saddle riding them. So that they looked amazing, I have to admit. They were really, really nice. So yeah, it looked impressive, to say the least. And one thing I did like was because we talked to the guy from FFG, talked us through it, was the fact that I'm not going to say it's not hidden movement, but every decision you make was on the sort of a pair of dials, but those dials were hidden from your opponent.
Yes.
So nobody knew what was going on. So it's like, ha-ha, surprise!
So similar to the X-Wing system. Because X-Wing
there
has...
you go. Yeah.
It's like a more complicated version of X-Wing, because X-Wing, you just put your manoeuvre into the dial, whereas this one, you had to put your manoeuvre and the strength of your attack in as well. So you basically had two things, so the other side didn't quite know what you were doing.
Yes. I quite like the idea of that. But yeah, we didn't get to play it, though.
No, we didn't, and it's still pulling me in. The gravitational pull of that game is strong. Now, one of the things we did say, and I think this is a game, both this and 40k was the game where we both kind of said no. And we both said, we don't want another miniatures game. We don't play miniatures games as it is. We don't want to look at these. There's too much stuff to see. Let's not look at miniatures games. But I can feel the gravitational pull of that Runewars. I'm circling. I'm on an orbit now.
Yeah, so it's going to happen. You're going to buy it.
Yeah, at some point. So, let's talk about a game that is not a miniatures game, which, again, I think I'm going to buy because it was so nice. Now, you didn't play this one. Mana Forge. No. Bollocks.
I didn't play Mana Forge, you're right.
No, you didn't play this one. Diceforge. Now, this is a new game by Asmodee.
No. Oh, God, that looked fun.
Now, number one, it's Asmodee. You can expect a certain level of professionalism to the production, and this thing just sang. This sang off the table. It looked so beautiful. Now, what this game is the simplest way to describe it is it's Dominion with dice. So you're in Dominion, you've got a deck of cards, you draw from the deck, which gives you a random hand. You use that hand to buy extra cards to add to your deck.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the way in which Diceforge worked is you had 2 dice. And then throughout the game, as you played it, you would roll the dice on everyone's turn and add up any resources you got from the roll of those dice. And there was gold, blue gems, red gems, and victory points.
Right.
But the clever thing was, is when it came to your round, you then use those resources to buy something. And you could either buy a card, which you typically use gemstones to buy, which either gave you an instant effect, a lump of victory points, or an ongoing effect that you could use on your round.
Right.
Pretty standard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But you could also buy new faces for your dice.
That was quite cool.
It was bloody cool, is what it was. So what you basically did was you'd spend the gold, buy a face for your dice, unclip one, and it was like a Lego brick, wasn't it? That flicked on the side, unclip one of the faces of the dice you already had, and replace it and change it for one of those things. And then hopefully, as you rolled the dice between turns, you'd get some of those resources back yourself.
Or in your case, you've got too much gold here, Andy. Right, I'm going to change your face from gold to something else. Roll the dice. 2 gold. You don't need any more gold, Steve.
Yes. Well, there was a weird point, actually, when quite early on in the game, there was one dice face was like 6 gold, was quite cheap. So you could get it really early on, and someone grabbed it thinking, oh, that's going to be amazing. I got halfway through the game, and they were like, I've got too much gold. I didn't need that 6 gold dice face. It was a trick. It was a trap, and I fell right for it.
A filthy trick.
So, yeah, I don't know when this is coming out. I think it's coming out soon because it looked pretty much finished. As I said, it was Dominion with dice, which has its upsides and downsides. If you like Dominion, if you like dice, you'll like this. The little dice changing mechanic was really, really nice. My worry is it's a little bit light, and I don't know what other cards were in the pack.
Right, okay.
Because it came with a set of power-up cards. Now, I think the dice faces were the same no matter what you were doing. But I don't know if the cards you could choose from altered between games. And I've got to admit, if they don't change between games, I think it's going to get stale pretty quick.
Okay. Do you reckon they might introduce sort of expansion packs of cards and faces, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course they are.
This was a game in which, if it picks up, you could, like Dominion, you could just keep expanding it. New dice faces, the odd new mechanic, new resource here and there. Yeah, definitely.
Do well. Speaking of which, of games that, you can basically just keep expanding and expanding, I was talking to a delightful pair of chaps about a game called Oligarchy.
Okay.
As in, lots of, powerful men sat in suits. A dystopian card game. Now, I'm not a big card game fan, as I've made clear on several occasions.
Clear. In fact, I must say, that was your get-out clause on a lot of the stand.
It was. Do you want to play this, Andy? I'm not a big card gamer. See you later.
I don't like card games, bye.
Although I did manage to get out of one game. There was a game called Bellum, which is obviously in Latin for war. And this poor, I think he was French, was trying to get me to play it. And I just genuinely, I walked past it and I thought the word Bellum at first glance looked like Belgium. When I walked past.
I remember that. I remember you turning to me and going, "Why is that game called Belgium?" Hey?
This poor French guy was like, "What? That's not my country. What are you talking about?" So I managed to sort of flummox the guy into letting me escape.
Do you know what the game was?
I don't remember that game. It was called Bellum, I think.
Yeah, but
I don't
what was
know.
it?
I don't know. I didn't really look at it, but it didn't really look appealing to me. A big board and not very much going on, so. But no, the game called Oligarchy I was looking at, the chaps talking to me were very nice, very helpful, very enthusiastic as well, and they're marketing Oligarchy, which is available to buy now, 25 quid, quote, for the base set, and you can see where this is going, can't you? And they're saying it's a bit like Magic, but it's not like Magic at all, because you can just play it with the base set, but there are expansions. I didn't say this, so I thought, so just like Magic then? This is no, because there's more in the box, there's more, whereas in Magic, you buy an upgrade pack or 10 cards, whatever the hell it is, for 3 quid, and you get like a 1% chance of getting a super rare, 10% for getting a rare, and all that sort of jazz. He said, well, there's 25% more chance of getting each of the different levels of rarity cards in this, so you're basically getting more, and there's more cards in a pack than Magic. So basically, they've done Magic, but cheaper and better value, as far as I can tell. Now, I don't really know much about Magic, other than it's a massive money sink, and it's something I steer well clear of. But I have to admit, the premise of Oligarchy did sound quite fun, because it's set in a dystopian future, and it's run by, essentially, the city's run by like 8 oligarchs, all of which have different skills, talents, resources, etc. And you get little sort of wheels, not actually unlike the wheels in Runewars. You have affluence and influence. So obviously affluence is the amount of dosh you've got, and influence is the amount by which you can influence other people. So you can play various cards, and you increase your affluence and influence, and ultimately basically beat the crap out of all of your others by either assassinating them, playing cards to steal their money, all that sort of stuff. So it sounded quite fun, but I didn't bother with it, because ultimately it's not really the sort of game I'd end up playing. I'd probably play it if somebody else brought it to the table, but not for me. But it did sound interesting for anyone who does like sort of 2-player tabletop card games. That's called Oligarchy, and it's for sale for £25.
Okay.
And right next door to Oligarchy, so I literally just sort of turned around from Oligarchy as I finished the sales pitch I got from them, was a rather attractive and interesting looking game called Wreck and Ruin, which I think has got a bit of attention, actually, because a lot of people mentioned it during the 3 days. And I have to admit, as soon as I'd walked away from the press area, I'd completely forgotten I'd seen it. So I've just gone through my photos now and gone, oh shit, I did see it. That's what Wreck and Ruin is. That looked really cool. So Wreck and Ruin is basically Mad Max.
Yes.
Lots of different sized vehicles, all the way from sort of little mopeds all the way up to massive great big rigs. You're all running around trying to find resources, i.e. fuel, petrol, in gas-guzzling machines, and it is a competitive game to essentially get these resources, score victory points, and beat your opponents to the objectives, and also to the resources. Each unit gets a certain amount of movement, an amount of firepower, so you basically got to choose whether you want to go for an objective with a really sort of small, lightweight, fast, nimble machine, so you get to the objective, but unfortunately they haven't got much firepower to defend it, or you spend an extra couple of turns getting the big rig in there, making sure you absolutely secure it, and anything that comes near is just going to get nailed, because it's got more offensive capability than Donald Trump on a cup of coffee. And we're probably going to get sued.
I wanted to go see that, actually. I went past the stand about 5 times, I think, over the entire weekend. And every time I went past the stand, it was rammed. So I was kind of thinking, like, I need to try and get the playing of that. And there was, like, halfway through a demo, like, everyone, like, heads down, completely engrossed in it. It's like, okay, this is doing well then, isn't it?
Yeah. It's very pretty as well. The miniatures in it look amazing, actually. I actually did myself an injury when I picked up the big rig because it's covered in spikes. Bloody sharp. And they're actually quite heavy because they look kind of sort of light, sort of plasticky, light, sort of shell-like affairs. They've actually got quite a bit of weight behind them, so there's a good deal of quality there.
They were prototypes.
Yes,
So
I
they were
was going to say.
printed,
But
yeah.
thing is, for prototypes, they were nice quality miniatures.
They were.
They really felt quite almost like finished products, but obviously still a prototype. But yeah, Wreck and Ruin looked quite good. Certainly one to keep an eye on, I reckon.
Yes, Mark, if you are listening, we like the look of it, and we apologise for not actually playing the game. We did come by and say hello, but you were very busy, so you're obviously doing rather well.
Just let us know when the Kickstarter is, or when it launches.
So while I was playing Maniforge, keep calling it Maniforge.
Diceforge, you plonker.
While I was playing Diceforge, what were you doing, Andy?
Yeah, while you were playing Diceforge, yeah, that's what it's called, isn't it? Yeah, Diceforge.
Yeah.
I was talking to Justin from Bad Cat Games about a game we actually reviewed a while ago called Elemenz with a Z, and spent quite a long time talking to him about his 2 games he's got on demo there, one of which is Elements, which we weren't enamoured with, but we have since found out that we were playing it wrong. So, but not only that, Justin has actually expanded the game. So the bit we had was literally 1 level of potentially 3.
Okay.
So the game actually scales really quite well. So you start off with the basic bit that we were playing, because we got the dice regeneration bit wrong, because you kept regenerating your dice, and you regenerated about 4 in a single turn. Yeah, you're only supposed to be able to do that once.
Okay, that makes no sense with the way we played it then.
No, we screwed it up, basically. We played it wrong. So when you roll a regeneration die, you're only supposed to say you've got 3 dice, and they've all got the same symbol. So when you roll another die, if it's the same symbol, you get it in your little pool. You can only do that once. So you can't regenerate like you did and regenerate 4 dice in a single turn. Now it's possible he's changed the rules since then.
They must have changed the rules then, because that was my character's special ability.
I don't know, but anyway, Justin has said he's changed the rules since.
Okay, fair enough.
So, and he's clearly changed the game since,
right.
And it's much bigger now. And I have to admit, it does look quite interesting.
Okay,
because there's the sort of the base board, there's like an additional board then, and then there's another sort of, I think it's a special abilities board on top, and it almost looks like a pyramid, the sizes of boards. So we've covered Elements before. It did really well. It's on Kickstarter at the moment, and I think it's already funded. So he's doing rather well.
Okay.
But on top of that, he also has another game, which I have to admit did take my fancy, which is called Gladiators, which is about gladiators, and you are almost like a slave master. You run you own a bunch of gladiators, and you are in amongst all the other players. Each one plays sort of a gladiator runner as a kind of a manager, and each of you are entering gladiators into tournaments in the ring, in the Colosseum or wherever it is, and you end up betting on each of your on the gladiators. Now, depending on the competition you're in, which is driven by a deck of cards, and they're all worth a certain amount of prestige, so gold, silver, or bronze, basically. And each gladiator has a certain amount of renown, which is represented by rose petals. So each gladiator starts the game with a certain number of rose petals, and obviously the more fights they win, the more of these things they get, because the crowd sort of showers them with rose petals and loves them, and so on and so forth, which is, not dissimilar to, things like, Russell Crowe in Gladiator and all that sort of jazz.
Yeah.
But you win all of these tournaments, but the beauty of it is, because you're betting on a gladiator, now you can bet on your own or you can bet on someone else's, but your opponents don't know. And your bet goes face down. So if you can't remember what you bet on, you get partway through the game, you think, shit, what have I bet on here? Oh crap, have I bet on myself? Do I need to throw my fight? And the special actions like throwing the fight as well. Or you're trying to deliberately lose a fight against one of your opponents because you want them to win the fight, so you win the money, so you can get more prestige and get more money.
Pretty cool.
It is. It does sound like a really interesting game. Now, it is very much in prototype at the moment, and its time scale is probably 12 months or more. Because Justin's still tweaking it and playing around with it, and he wants to get elements out of the way first before he starts considering releasing Gladiators. But it does sound quite good.
Cool. After we'd done a bit of walk around store, we were invited to play a few games with Ludicrations. So yes, we had a bit of a burn through like 3 separate games in as quickly as time as possible, really. So these were all demos from Ludicrations. Now the first one's on Kickstarter at the moment, which was Ianu.
Ianu, yes, or whatever the hell it was called.
Ianu,
some Egyptian thing.
Some Egyptian thing, and I must admit, this when he first unpacked this game, it looked drier than a piece of burnt toast.
Drier than Edmund Blackadder in the Gobi Desert.
The gist of this game was you were building up or playing out different roles in kind of an Egyptian society. So it's all ancient Egyptian. All the graphics artwork is all kind of hieroglyphs. And you were placing down sets of characters, which were worth points. And each different character is worth different amounts of points. And so, like, the lowest amount of points characters were farmers, the highest point was the pharaoh. Funnily enough, there's loads of farmers, there's only one pharaoh. So it was a kind of a balance about what you could put out and how many you wanted of each. But there was a clever thing in that you had to discard basically most of your hand every round, didn't you?
Yes.
So you had to balance between what you put down and placed and the instantaneous effect they got, and then balance that against you had to put some of those cards back in the middle and some of those cards got discarded. Now, what the game got quite interesting was that a little bit of a, what's the word I'm looking at? A bit of a love letters kind of feel to it. In the card you placed always had a special ability, and that special ability would usually fire off. So bakers could bake bread. Bread was a really weird one because if you put bread on things, you got extra points, didn't you?
Yes.
From most of the cards.
So I mean, the idea behind that was basically you've got to keep your citizens happy, and you keep them happy by feeding them.
Yes, that was it. So there was cards that allowed you to gain cash depending on how much. There was some dice as well, some D4s, pyramids, of course, and you got cash based on how many of these. If you played a particular character, you'd get the cash in. There was a character that allowed you to keep a card back. There was a character that allowed you to keep a card secret. I think the pharaoh was just worth lots of points. There was a character that stole farmers off other players. You could put a soldier down, which protected your farmers from other players.
Yeah, the soldier did both, yeah. So either you drop a soldier down and rob a farmer because he's like, well, screw this, I'm not being fed, I'm unhappy. So he defected.
Yeah, so it was, as I said, it's a bit like a combination between kind of a love letter and a set collection game. And at first, it was quite. I thought it was a bit complicated at first, but once the game started going, it flowed really nicely, actually.
It did. I mean, it didn't take long to play at all once we actually got the gist of it. We're like, oh, yeah. Then the penny drops. You're like, dum, 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 as you go around.
Yeah.
And having, not 5 minutes ago, me saying, I don't like card games, usually. I quite like this one. And I have literally now just backed it.
Well, there you go. It's on Kickstarter now.
It is $28 for the deluxe edition, which I may or may not have just pledged.
It was quite interesting, actually, because as I'm describing it now, I've just had the alert come up on my phone. And the nurse has just packed.
See, proof. I'm not making it up.
No.
Ianu.
I got me. Even as I'm describing it now, it sounds boring, but I enjoyed it at the time.
It really is not boring. Yeah, it does look, honestly, like listening to Nigel Mansell talking about, moustache cream. But it is quick. It's dead easy to pick up. I mean, once you get your head around the symbols, I think the symbols and the iconography were a bit weird.
Yeah, especially the victory point ones.
Yes.
It looked like it was a piece of bread was obviously designating points for a piece of bread, and it looked like a potato was a different type of victory point. And then there was some in a circle. Some of the graphic design choices were a bit suspicious. Abstract. Yes, abstract.
shit. But it was fun. I enjoyed it.
So the next one we played, which you had to abscond because your name was Muck on the Facebook groups.
It was not Muck. It was called into question.
Yes, your heritage was called into question, I think.
But to be fair, many people leapt to my defence.
True, they did. Yeah, to give an explanation, basically, we both arranged to make several purchases via the group, second-hand purchases that we're going to pick up during the day. So I'd already picked up my copy of Infiltration, which I wanted to get hold of, and you were picking up a copy of Scythe.
I was,
which is very nice. And,
it is very nice. I've still not played it.
So you scootled off to go pick up your copy of Scythe while we were playing the second game, and then we both found out when we got back. We checked our phones later that the person you bought it off had basically complained on Facebook that you weren't answering your messages.
No, basically, oh my god, shit! That's because my phone had decided not to inform me he was trying to get in touch. God damn it!
That. So while you were away, I played with Amanda as well. Now, oh god, I can't remember. The Diesel Destruction Derby, I think it was called.
That was the one. Derby, dear boy, Derby.
Derby?
We're not American. This ain't the Brawling Brothers.
Sorry, I do apologise. So, this was, and I'm really going to make a likening here to Love Letter. This was like a multi-round Love Letter. What you did is you had a deck of cards, you'd pick a robot from the deck, you'd play it down, face down, everyone would reveal, and then you'd pass the deck around clockwise. So it was a card drafting action selection. And each robot has got a different strength, and each robot has got a different ability. Well, most of them have anyway. So the idea is whoever had the most strength at the end of the round won the round. Really, really straightforward. So you had things like there was a tank, and if you placed one of the tanks, it said this tank will shoot the lowest card on the table, or this tank will shoot the highest card on the table, or this card will protect any other microbot you have, or something like that. But it was a very, very small deck of cards, so every time you played, you're playing with the same robots over and over again. In that way, it's very similar to Love Letter. You've got this very restricted deck. And then what also happened is the first round we just did a straight up fight. Whoever had most points wins. Second round we started revealing these kind of scenario cards. So that one card would be whoever has the most robots in play at the end, regardless of strength. And it was like strength was a tiebreaker, or whoever had the single highest strength robot won the round. So again, once you got used to the deck of cards, you're then looking at how to manipulate what's going on the table in order to kind of rejig that. Did you actually play around with this or not, Andy?
No, I didn't. I sat watching you. So you and Amanda and Chris playing it. And after a couple of rounds, I started to get the gist of it, just about. So there was, each robot had, as you say, certain abilities. So one of them had the ability to basically just not get discarded no matter what you did to it.
Yeah.
Which seemed to work in Amanda's favour, actually. She basically played this card. You and Chris played cards, and even the main event said, right, everyone discard the cards, except this robot was just sat there going, no, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, it was, as I said, it was like a longer version of Love Letter, but without kind of the deduction side of it. But I'll say about the deduction side, because you're doing a card drafting as well, you should know what's in the deck and what you've handed off to the other players. So there is a little bit of deduction in it as well. So that's due out in Kickstarter later in the year. Probably will be out after Ianu has done and finished. I don't know what kind of... I mean, this is Ludicreations, by the way. They tend to do about 4 to 6 months between Kickstarters, so I would imagine this will be out sometime around Essen, I would have thought.
I would imagine so, yes. And, the final game we played there, and a reference back to your rather sneaky segue there, we burned through. That's very clever, Mr. Tudor.
Yes, I've got one clever thing per podcast at the moment, I think.
One. That's the limit of our brain right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's been sat here. I'm looking at him on video. He's been sat yawning his head off. I'm like, am I keeping you up here, Steve? Do you want a nap? Do you want a warm mug of Ovaltine and a nice comfy pillow to get your head down?
Oh, yes, I would actually.
Yeah, that does actually sound pretty good. Now I've mentioned it, I'm looking at my kettle going, I want a cup of tea. The third game that Chris showed us was the game called Alexandria, which is, for those of you who are familiar with your ancient history, and for those of you who aren't, I'm going to tell you anyway, is about the Great Fire of Alexandria, which basically some idiot, left a cigarette burning in a bin somewhere, and the Great Library of Alexandria was burned to the ground. Lots and lots and lots of records and books and things are obviously lost in the blaze, and the game Alexandria is intended to simulate that event. However, there is a twist. Of course there is. It's up to 4 players, isn't it? I think the version we played.
Yes.
So there are 4 characters. Each character is very different. So rather than just having, everyone sort of racing for what they want and everyone trying to do the same thing, each character has their own goal and their own agenda. So the character I happened to play was quite interested in saving books and relics and things like that, which there are 3 decks of cards which represent people, books, and various items. So these things sort of scattered around the library. Another person was basically not asked if the place got torched, so they were just basically setting off traps and just screwing everybody else over. So you had both ends of the spectrum. And the idea is that the game was made up of square tiles, onto which there were 4 randomly generated items, such as things like chests, lecterns, scrolls, bookcases, fire extinguishers. I don't know, I can't remember the rest of them. Aerosols, to try and set things off. And you could interact with each of these things if you were in that particular room. And you could move from room to room freely. But at the end of each round, you would lose a room to the flames per person. So for a 4-player game, the map would decrease by 4 rooms.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, but it meant that the game would basically be over after about, 5 rounds?
Yeah.
It wasn't much. The map of the library is sort of semi-randomly generated. So the back of each library card, there's an arrow on it. So once you've shuffled them all up and put them into a big deck, the arrow points to the direction in which the next library card is put down.
Yeah.
Which I thought was quite nice.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way of sort of randomly and mixing the game up every time.
Mm.
And yeah, the game you have a hand to play the game. You have a hand of cards. And which the hand is unique to each character, so very well suited to that character, so they can play ability on their card, and each ability took a certain amount of time to play.
Yes.
And that's the important bit.
That was quite an interesting one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't played in turn order. What happened is if you took an action, your time unit went down that amount.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next player was the person who had the most time left.
Yeah, so it's almost simulating real time, almost.
Yeah, so if you're doing a task which takes you absolute ages, then you put it down, and then everyone else can have like 2 or 3 goes after you.
And it was done in sort of priority order. So if you finished your you did your task first. It took say 1 time. The next person took 1 time, but their counter on the turn track would be placed on top of yours. And you go round the table again to sort of the next sort of level of time. So if there's a stack, the person on the top of that stack would play first.
Yeah.
Which I thought was an interesting mechanic. So you've got to really plan not only what you want to do, but how efficient it would be to do it, and whether you'd be able to play in the next turn, or whether other people would do 2 things before you and get in your way, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Okay.
But not only that, you could ask or even force other people to help you. So if there's somebody in an adjacent room, hey guys, come here, and you could enlist their help to accomplish a task, which would cost them time and potentially also cost them either resources or victory points or something like that. Or you would give them a victory point.
They would always gain a victory point. Yeah, they gain a victory point for helping, but it usually meant that not only did they lose time, but it meant they were in the wrong place for what they were planning usually as well.
Yeah, so I really enjoyed it. I thought it was quite a fun game, even though we saw a little bit of it.
We only saw a bit of it, and it didn't click with me.
Really? You didn't like it?
Yeah, I wouldn't go so far as to say I didn't like it. It didn't have the click. It didn't have that something that went in my head and went, all right, okay, I understand this now. Off we go. Because Now, I don't know whether there was still some balancing to do, but we all had 4 different characters, and I could not work out how my character got points as quickly as everyone else's.
Yeah, okay.
Because everyone else's characters were like running through the victory point charts. I mean, we didn't play a full game. I think did we play 1 full round?
2, I think. We played 1, and then we made the library smaller. Then we played another round, but we didn't make the library smaller again. So
that was
1.5 rounds.
Yeah. And everyone else was on like 8 or 9 victory points, and I think I was on 2.
Yes, I remember that. You were really lagging. That was quite funny.
Yeah, but I was looking at my cards and thinking, well, you've all done actions which will make getting you like 4 and 5 victory points at a time, and yet mine were all like 2 and 3, and there was no way I could do like 3 or 4 actions. So I was really struggling to work out how the character I had scored lots of points. Something didn't add up somewhere,
See, the polar opposite of that game, where, your brain didn't click and mine did, was when we played on... God, was it Sunday afternoon? Saturday afternoon?
It was Saturday afternoon, yeah.
Yeah, it was quite late in the day.
Saturday, yeah. Shadowscape.
That's it. Oh, God. And we both sat down, and there was this huge, great, really very pretty card-based sort of dungeon ahead of us, and each card represented a room in a dungeon, and they all linked together, and there's a bunch of bad guys on tiles there, and there's a couple of heroes set up, and the idea was that you achieve blue shards, basically these magic shards, and you can go around the dungeon and pick up a weapon, or go to a font and gain health or ability, or whatever it was. And it was all driven by the fact that your action cards were double-sided. And you could play, was it two actions, I think, each turn?
2 actions, yeah.
So you select a card, you perform its action, and then you turn it over. So the next turn, you couldn't play the same one again.
Yeah.
So you had to do a different action. So you had to know, obviously, what was on both sides of the cards. And you had a certain amount of movement. Each card had a different symbol on it, would give you a certain amount of either attack or defense or movement. So you had to work out how to use your cards effectively to move into another room, maybe ransack it, open a chest, smack a bad guy on the head. And it was being explained to us, and Steve had just sat there nodding, oh yeah, this is fine, this makes complete sense. And my brain was going, the fuck is this nonsense? You're having a laugh, mate. This does not make any sense at all. This is not a game. This is congealed failure. And my brain just would not have it. I just sat there, just staring at it, trying to work out what the hell to do for my first round. I'm like, well, I want to go in that room. He says, you can't. Well, why not? We don't have the actions to do that. I said, well, that's a bit shit, isn't it? He says, no, you have to do this. And I said, well, I'm just basically being railroaded now. My brain was just like, I don't like this. No, get me another game. This is bollocks. Eventually, once we'd gone through a couple of turns, it started to click. But my God, that was no. My brain was just no. I'm not having this.
I'm not quite sure if your brain was just broken, or whether there was something about the game you didn't fundamentally get. Because
I think it was the latter. It really just didn't work in my head. I'm being railroaded. I have to do a couple of things I don't want to do.
I gotta admit, it's quite bizarre in that. The more I think about the game, the more it feels like a different take on the same kind of idea of City of Kings. Because it did have that kind of limited actions. There was no randomness, there was no dice. You planned your actions carefully about what you were doing. And this feel of moving between little grids, because that grid of the dungeon was very similar to, City of Kings kind of wilderness kind of grid.
Yeah.
But it was all about preparation, and I think that's the other thing that City of Kings was all about. We won that demo City of Kings we played because we'd prepped correctly to get the right equipment out, and this was all about, right, I want to go do, I twigged quite early on, right, one of the easiest things for me to do is I'm near the healing font. If I can heal, or healing shrine, sorry, if I can heal while I'm healing the healing shrine, I can pick up that reward card.
How did you even get that? I didn't even notice that shit. It's like these really tiny, piddly little icons at the bottom of these cards. What the fuck does that mean?
Now, what is quite interesting is you said it's like a big board set out. I picked up a copy of this, and the box is tiny. It's like the most box.
It's about 6 by 6 inches, isn't it?
Yeah, 6 by 6 inch box. So there's loads in there. But it was that, okay, right, I need to get wounded. I need to get to there and use a healing card. Right, I need to do this, this, and this. And I kind of like, you're still scratching your head, and I'd worked out 4 turns in advance of what I wanted to do.
I was still trying to work out why I wasn't allowed to walk into the next room and open the goddamn chest. No, you can't do that. Well, why not? That just seems a bit stupid. Well, you have to go in and attack this skeleton. I don't want to attack the skeleton. He's fucking hard. I'm not going to be able to hurt him. I need a bigger weapon. Oh, you can't? Well, you have to go in and hurt the skeleton. I can't hurt the skeleton. I don't have the cards to do it. Yes, you do. You've got symbols there. But I don't want to use them because it means I can't use them next turn. You're going to have to. Well, that's not a game. That's just forcing me to do. I might as well just play roll and fucking move if that's the case. No, that was not for me.
We've got a copy of this. Once you've had like a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
And
I will give it another chance.
We'll give it another chance. I really like the look of this. The symbols thing was like movement, for instance. You did your movement action and you added up all the feat symbols across all your cards. And those action cards, of course, were double-sided with double different symbols on the back of each card as well. So, to get a decent attack going, you had to make sure all your cards were facing the right way. So it's almost like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube in a board game.
Yes.
But obviously your mind was not ready for that day.
No, that was a task I was unable. I had to take alone. I'm afraid my brain just went, no, you're on your own for this one, mate. So yeah, I will give that another go. It is only fair, but it did look lovely. To be fair to it,
it did look very nice. Yeah. So another game we both played, and we promised we'd go to the bus, and we went to the bus.
We did go to the bus. They didn't let us on though. We didn't have a ticket.
Didn't have my Oyster card.
They don't do that anymore.
What?
No, you can just, because you can use, on the tube and stuff, because you can just use contactless, you don't need your Oyster card anymore.
Oh.
You just use contactless.
Oh, shows how long it's been since I went to London.
Well, there you go, you see, yeah.
Well, that's much easier.
I thought it was quite useful.
Yeah, because you always use that mad scramble. Ever go to London, it's like, right, where have I put my Oyster card? Where have I put my Oyster card? I haven't touched it in a year.
Down the back of the fridge or something.
Anyway, there was nothing to do with oysters in this game. This was to do with Norse mythology. And it's not to be confused with the other Norse mythology games at the Expo, of which there seem to be quite a few, to be fair. So we played just outside the bus, The War of the Nine Realms.
We didn't play outside the bus. That's not a game.
Which is not to be confused with Nine Worlds, which was the other Viking game. No. So
no, not that.
No, War of the Nine Realms was... Now, we played a 2-player version of it, but apparently it's up to 4 players, and you take on a small troop of Viking-themed people. So I had the typical Asgardian gods. So I had Odin, Thor, Valkyrie, and something that I can't remember what it was.
T'other one,
yeah.
Yeah, him.
And then you...
Let's call him Fred.
Let's call him Fred, yes. Fred, Odin, and Thor, and Valkyrie. And you had...
I had a Lycan and some other people.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember their names.
I'm not that up on my Norse mythology, so I can't remember who you had.
I only know Thor and Odin and Loki, and we didn't have Loki. He wasn't there. But yeah, I had a Lycan and a couple of other people and some big hard bastard, but I can't remember his name.
So this was basically like a little skirmish type game, really, wasn't it? It was a hex grid, different terrain in each grid, like mountains and lakes and forests, that kind of thing. And it was based on action points, so every player would do something, and it would cost so many action points, which you'd use. So moving cost so many action points, making an attack would make so many action points. But then if you wanted to defend, you had to use your action points as well. So your action points didn't refresh until the beginning of the round. Now, there's 2 ways of winning the game. You can either beat the smeg out of your opponent's leader, or you can fill the cauldron of blood. Which was basically every time you did a damage to someone, you moved the Cauldron of Blood token up. So if you got, I think it was 9 points of damage to the opposing team, no matter what.
Yes, 9,
you won the game. Now, to show how balanced this game was, we got to a point when both of us were on 8 points each.
Yes.
So we were both like neck and neck, and it was just basically the first person to spit on the other would won.
Yeah. Although you won it basically by rolling something like 3 12s in the same roll.
Yes.
Because you got an extra, basically a critical hit. So an extra point of damage if you rolled a full 12 on a D12. And you rolled at least 2 in a single hit, which basically meant I got my arse handed to me.
Yeah, and a very jammy roll at the end.
Yeah, I have to admit, I didn't like that. Not because I lost, but I thought the additional points of damage were a bit heavy.
And, well, it was a bit weird, wasn't it? Because, like, everyone had, like, an armor of about 18. So I think you were rolling, like, 3d12 when you were trying to get 18 or more for most of them. And then you had to get multiples. So, like, if you got 18, you did 1 point of damage. 36, and you did 2 points of damage.
Yeah.
But you get an extra point of damage for every 12 you rolled. But then there was cards as well. You had a little deck of cards, and they were doing, like, +6 attack, +5 defense, reroll all the dice, reroll 1 dice, that kind of thing. And you could play roughly, really, as many of those cards as you wanted, couldn't you?
Yeah, it was almost like a one-upmanship. Well, I'm going to play that. Well, fuck you, I'm playing this.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to play that then. Well, I'm going to play this and roll my dice again. And I've scored a 12. God damn it! Yeah, I don't know. No. I think, given a binary answer, no, from me.
I think if you're going to force me to do a binary answer, I think you're correct.
Yeah. I wasn't overly enamoured with it.
Do you know when we talked about Farsight a few weeks back?
Yes.
And I said, Farsight is doing mostly an old thing. You know, it's grid combat, it's some mechs, it's on a board, it's a grid, and the thing that made it special was the fact that most of the movement was hidden. So you didn't know what was moving, and that was the thing which made it pop. The problem is, I think War of the Nine Realms was that game without the thing that made it pop. It wasn't that it was necessarily a bad game. It was just it didn't do anything new or different or, dare I say, exciting.
I think you've hit the nail on the head with that last word, because it was functional, but not really. It was like eating a cream cracker without any cheese on it. Functional, but not very exciting. You need some pate or a nice bit of brie.
I was about to say, I like cream crackers, but I don't like cheese, so I quite like crackers without cheese.
Right, some pate.
But then you said pate, and it's like, yeah, there you go. You've just zhewed it up a bit there.
Yeah. There you go. Bit of pate.
But yeah, I think that is it, isn't it? It wasn't a bad game. It worked, but it just didn't do anything. It didn't do anything to excite you, did it? And it just if you'd have released that game 10 years ago, 8 years ago, it would have probably shone because it's doing. I wouldn't say something even new then, but there wasn't as much competition. But at the moment, it just felt like, well, it's not doing absolutely anything that's getting me interested, unfortunately.
No. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry about that. Another game I very quickly played, like a very brief overview of, and this was first thing on Saturday morning. We kind of rushed in. You were off to play another game, so I just had a little bit of a mooch. So I finally had a little bit of a run through of Guild Ball.
Okay.
Guild Ball is a game I've been looking at for ages. Now this is the fantasy football, so fantasy orcs and elves football, proper football, not hand egg.
Soccer.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
So they've got soccer. So they've got this demo game. They've got this kickoff, they call it, which is like the starter set. And now this all set up, and I got run through a basic. Okay, here's the rules. Try and score a goal, kind of thing. And it was okay. But if you ever played War Machine, it was War Machine with a football, I thought. Now, some people are going to go, wow, that sounds amazing. I want in on that. I just kept thinking, it's War Machine with a football. And when the guy said, oh, which miniatures games have you played? Oh, I played 40K, I played X-Wing, I played War Machine. Oh, good, you played War Machine. This will make it easy. So you do this, like in War Machine. You do this, like in War Machine. You do this, like in War Machine. And I just kept thinking...
It's War Machine.
It's bloody War Machine with a ball and a goal.
That's like the game Frantic we reviewed. It's just, if you played Uno, it's basically Uno. You're not off to a good start when you're saying, oh, you need to have played a different game before you play this one.
Yeah, so I left feeling a little bit kind of deflated because I was really excited about Guild Ball. I'd seen lots of stuff about it and thought, "Oh, this looks awesome," but I just kept thinking, "Well, I've got a box full of War Machine miniatures at home. I might as well just play that."
Yeah, there's not enough different, basically.
There's not enough difference in it for me. Definitely not for me. Other people will say, "Oh, it's a smaller game. It's more tactical. It's more skirmish or whatever," but there's not enough different in for me to just pull out my box of War Machine and play with some big stompy robots, basically.
That sounds fun. I should play War Machine. I've not played it yet. Big stompy robots, you say?
I do say big stompy robots, yes.
Hello, says I. Speaking of games with basically a reskin...
Go on
the Sunday morning, Steve and I basically, as soon as the doors opened, went a full sprint. Because we'd spent 2 days walking past their stall trying to... Have you got a demo going? Have you got a demo going? Oh, they've just started. You got a demo? How long does the demo last? Oh, about an hour and a half. Oh, we'll come back. We came back. You just started again. Oh, for God's sake. So we're like, right, Sunday morning, we're going in. So we did. And we made literally a full sprint all the way to the back of the Expo to Monolith stand.
Yes.
Where we played Batman.
I do remember there was a tactical decision at that point. It was like, right, we both need coffee, but we both want to play Batman. Coffee or Batman? Coffee or Batman?
Coffee or Batman? Daddy or chips? Daddy or chips? Coffee or Batman? Batman wins.
Batman won.
Yeah. And now I've not played Conan, so this was all new to me. But you've got Conan, so
I've got Conan,
you knew your way around it.
Well, I've got Conan. I've not actually played my copy of Conan yet, which is a bit disappointing.
Right, we need to sort that out.
Well, we'll sort that out soon, yeah. So, yeah, it's basically Conan. Batman is
a reskin.
Is exactly the same game. Now, a couple of the stats have changed slightly to suit the setting better, but the whole mechanics of the little energy crystals, reaction crystals, are exactly the same. The way in which the bad guy, which in your case you took over Bane and his henchmen, the way in which the bad guy activates his little river, I think it's called, which are the tiles, which as you activate a unit, the tile goes to the end, is exactly the same as Conan. In fact, the river you had all the Conan logos on it.
The player board was from Conan because you could tell it was a piece of stone with chips missing out of it. Yes. It was just nicked from Conan.
So basically, it was Conan, but instead of Conan, you had Batman, and Batman was armed with some batarangs, and I played Catwoman, and somebody else played Red Hood. But the basic gist of the scenario was, because it's going to be scenario-driven, just like Conan is, Bane was about to blow up GCPD at the bottom of a abandoned underground station. And so there were several C4 bombs planted around the place, which hadn't quite been prepped yet. So Bane's people had to arm the bombs, Batman and the crew had to disarm the bombs. It was as simple as that, really. I say as simple as that. Much. I got my ass kicked.
Yes. Yeah, one of my henchmen took particular exception to Catwoman, and she took 2 shotguns to the face. And yeah, she basically was trying to be clever, ran into a little room to defuse a bomb right at the start of the game to try and just get the edge. My henchman turned around and went, "No!" and shot her. She basically spent the rest of the game on her arse. Which I found rather hilarious.
It was actually really difficult to defuse those bombs. I worked out at the end that Catwoman had a reasonable chance of doing it, but Batman could defuse them as well. But Batman needed to basically spend 4 crystals to do that, and he only gets 5 back in a standard turn. So it was
pretty harsh.
It was pretty damn harsh. They were pretty damn difficult to defuse those bombs. So I basically spent half the game resting, get some crystals back, trying to defuse the bomb, resting, get some crystals back, trying to defuse the bomb.
Shotgun to the face. 2 dogs. Yeah, that was funny. And then, oh God, what else did I set 3 dogs on Batman. That was fun. And then Red Hood decided he was going to try and take on Bane.
Yes.
Right at the point where Bane had got to the point where using Bane only cost me 1 crystal. So I, for 2 crystals, activated Bane's Venom ability, which turned Bane into Venom Bane. I then essentially turned Red Hood's face into a very large flat object. And beat the crap out of him. Now, to be fair, Red Hood then got his vengeance, pulled out his magnum and shot Bane in the face and took him out.
Took him out in one action. That was the best thing.
Yeah, he did well. But it was not enough to win the game. Bane won.
No, it wasn't, because we couldn't defuse the bloody bombs.
No. It was... I mean, having not played Conan, I have to say, I do like it. It's quite a nice system. Very inventive, and, I mean, the miniatures looked amazing, obviously.
Yes, they're prototype minis again. I think they've just been 3D printed, but the sculpts on them... They even said these weren't quite the final sculpts. They were doing a bit more work on them.
Yeah.
But the Batman miniature, just the Batman miniature on his own, it looked awesome.
It really did, yeah. There's a cloak sweeping out, and it did look... The game looked impressive. So, I mean, it's probably not going to be out or available for, at least another 12 months, they said, I think.
They were saying the Kickstarter will probably be towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
So they've confirmed they're definitely going to Kickstarter, which, if you've followed anything by Monolith, is not a surprise at all. Which means you're looking at probably at least 18 months away before this actually comes out proper.
Yeah, I would say so.
Because Conan was significantly late, and they've still got to put out Mythic Battles Pantheon, which they haven't done yet.
Ah, yeah.
That kickstarted October last year, was it? So
something like that.
I'd expect a big wait, but I would... It's going to be hard not to back this Kickstarter when it comes out. You know, the stuff people got for backing Conan, I think...
It's going to do well.
It's going to do well. But yeah,
I suspect I'm probably going to do it.
Yeah, I think we are as well.
Yeah, even... Now, there's an interesting question for you, because you've got Conan.
Yes.
Do you want Conan and Conan 2?
Well, you said this at the Expo, and I've been mulling it over since, and because it's going to be at least 18 months till I get Batman...
You might have played Conan at least once by then.
Yes. Maybe twice if we're lucky. We'll see, actually. In the time it takes for the Kickstarter to come out, we'll see how much I've played Conan, but I've just got the retail version of Conan. I've not got the Kickstarter with all the back extra stuff, so I have a limited quantity of Conan to play, should we say.
Oh, right, okay.
Compared to what people who backed the Kickstarter got.
Very nice.
Which was a metric fuck ton.
And a metric fuck ton is comprised of 100 shitloads.
Yes, our unit.
Absolutely, yes. So, yeah, that was good. We did enjoy Batman. Well, I definitely enjoyed Batman because I won.
I enjoyed it. I wish... we did have a bit of a problem with... It was two other random people, and so coordinating things to do was difficult. And the scenario, I think, probably needed a little bit of tweaking, because having characters start at opposite ends meant that Batman and Red Hood could work together quite easily, but I thought Catwoman struggled. But I think that's the beauty of that kind of Conan system, is you can then replay that if you think you've screwed it up. So it's not like we're going to play a scenario once and that's it. So
yeah, no, it was fun. But while you were off playing War Machine with a football,
yeah,
I was at the Polish corner, as it were, being shown Uboot, or Uboot, depending on where you're from, by Phalanx Studios. Now, I've made no secret that I've backed Hannibal and Hamilcar, because I seem to have a fondness for dry, historically accurate, ridiculously precise and finicky games. I think the epitome of this desire and enjoyment is Uboot, which is a almost real-time submarine simulator set in the 1940s aboard a German U-boat, and it's almost like a kind of a realistic Captain Sonar. It's probably the best way I can describe it. There are 4 roles, so you play the captain, the navigator, the engineer, and the cook or something, whatever it is, or the mechanic. And like in Captain Sonar, things can go wrong on the boat, but they are randomly generated because the game is app-driven.
Okay.
So you have the board with the map of the submarine on it. You've got... Each player has 4... kind of staff members at their command. So you got sort of a bunch of crewmates. So the navigator's got a sort of a leader and 3 other minions, and the same sort of idea for the captain and the engineer and the helmsman or whatever he is. And they each have a different sort of levels of ability. So some of them have repair abilities, first aid, cooking, observation for when they're above deck, all that sort of jazz. And you can move them around. So the captain's got a certain number of orders, or limit to the number of orders he's allowed to take in each shift. And if he starts taking too many orders, because it takes an order to move the staff around, and then an order to actually get something done. So if he takes too many orders, the staff get a drop in morale, which you end up sort of drawing cards and bad things happen. But at the end of a 6-hour shift, you get a shift change, and the cards flip over. But during that shift, the app might turn around and go, well, as it did in my case, my captain got appendicitis.
What?
But they are persistent. So you kind of, there's a card, and then there's two sides on the player board where you can store things like fatigue and illness. So you flip the card over, and the points in that you get a persistent status basically until you fix it, until you cure it. Like, you know, you might get an electric shock from an appliance or from some dodgy wiring, or there might be a leak and you can break your thumb or whatever. So until you spend the resources and the medics' time to sort it out, you've basically got this permanent condition. So at the end of the shift again, so when you flip it back, you've still got that condition, which might affect you further on. But on top of that, the idea is that you basically you're patrolling the European sort of Atlantic for patrol ships and supply ships and stuff. And you, as the captain, you basically say, right, I want to go, heading 330 degrees, go full steam ahead. And the navigator has got, no word of a lie, a paper disc with all the bearings all over it and a load of concentric rings to represent distance. And you draw the heading on that piece of paper. And there's a map with a grid on it. You draw the heading on the map. So there's like a ruler, a compass, a protractor. It's basically GCSE maths. But it's ridiculously realistic, but it's really, really good. So you enter all this information into the app, and then the app works out, where you're going, how fast you're going, and if there's anything in your way. And then it sort of says, you've got an event. Do you want to, have a look? If you've got somebody on deck, you can tell the app how many people you've got, what their observation skills are, and obviously it'll take all of that into account to see whether they actually notice anything while they've got stood up there with their thumb up their arse, observing what's going on. So it all works rather well. Now, the demo we got, they haven't finished building the app yet, so we couldn't actually fire torpedoes. But we could chase ships and find out where they were and hunt them down and stuff, which was really good fun. I have to admit, it was good. Again, it won't appeal to everybody. Yeah. But I found it quite entertaining. Okay. And it was quite stressful, actually.
I can imagine, yeah. It sounds like Robinson Crusoe, but piloting a sub.
Possibly, yeah. But this was sort of pseudo-real time. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And it's very typical of Phalanx's offerings. It's very accurate and I wouldn't say precise, but definitely historically representative. Yeah. And something I learned about U-boats as well during the conversation with Yarrow, was that they were mostly surface boats. They didn't actually go underwater very often at all. Because they were driven by electric motors. And, rather entertainingly, every time they wanted to fire a torpedo, all the crew had to run to the front of the ship to act as ballast to offset the torpedo. Otherwise, as it happened once or twice in the war, it fires a torpedo, the whole U-boat pops out the water like a champagne cork and sits on the surface for anything nearby to beat the crap out of it.
That's pretty cool.
So that was fun. So I quite enjoyed Uboot, but it's not going to be ready for quite a while. I mean, it's still like an early prototype.
Was that very early, was it?
Yeah, but I mean, the sculpts they had were quite accurate. They look quite nice, although they were quite small. But the map looked lovely, and the app's definitely in development. So, yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed that, and it got a lot of attention, and it does look different.
Cool.
So I did ask them, so how exactly are you going to incorporate a set of compasses and a protractor in this game? And they sort of looked at me, yeah, we haven't worked that out yet.
Oh, GCSE stationery kit, that can't be expensive, surely.
No, just go down to WH Smith's.
Yeah.
Job done.
So another game we both played, a quick demo of, was Everdark. And I believe you've played this a bit more since.
I have indeed, yes. Obviously we picked this up, we first saw this at Expo last year, 2016, and I've been communicating with Ed on and off for the last 12 months. So he was going to kickstart it in August last year, but he chose not to, and I think it was a good idea. So he's brought it he brought it to Aircon earlier this year, and he's taken on board more feedback, and he's brought kind of almost version 3 or maybe even version 4 of it now this year. And we all sat down and played it, or at least a very brief run through, sort of 20 minutes of it.
Yeah. Just like a lot of stuff we did at the Expo, it was like a slice of the game rather than the full game.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I've got the background because I played it a little more than everybody else at the table, but the idea basically is that a city of Phos, which is based on a series of concentric rings, each of which can rotate individually, which have all the play spaces on, and you've got all the streets mapped out onto each of these rings. So you can move through the streets as characters, but you're limited by where the roads go. So you can rotate the ring to help you drop down or climb up a level on the city. And the idea is that there's a bunch of events going on in the city caused by the Everdark, which surrounds the city. The leader of the city has recently carked it under mysterious circumstances, and you play as a bunch of sort of underling priests, trying to prevent the Underdark from taking over, and ultimately one of you will become the new leader of light, as it were. So it's a semi-cooperative game, and you each choose how to do these little events and try and overcome them by rolling dice. You have crystals to help you boost your dice score or allow you to re-roll dice or use an extra die to try and help you overcome these challenges. If you win the challenge, you gain crystals and some VPs, depending on the difficulty of the challenge. If you fail it, then you spawn another darkness token on the space that it was, and that it increases the overall darkness around. And if you get the darkness too big, the whole thing falls over and everybody loses. On top of that, you end up with Skier, which are like the bad guys, who start to spawn later on in the game, and they can move around the city, spreading darkness as well. So if you get too far in the game, as we found out last night, the darkness starts increasing rather quickly because the severity of the amount of darkness, the tokens 1, 2, or 3, increases through the game as well. And the difficulty of the challenges also increases every round as well. So they all get shuffled into one big deck. So you get dealt these sort of 5 or up to 5 of these challenges every round. You choose 3 of them, depending on the number of players. So it's 3 for a 4-player game. I think it's 5 for a 2-player game. And depending on their difficulty, you could potentially fail them a lot more readily, but they do reward you with more. So it's obviously an offset. And you've got to choose on whereabouts you want to do these challenges, because each one's specific to a location on the map. And of course, you can either help or hinder your opponents.
Yes.
By using some of your actions to rotate the board to help them out, or you can spend all your actions, do your job, and then just rotate it and piss everybody off, which is the approach I took.
It's unlike you, Andy. You're usually such a nice, gentle human being.
Oh, indeed, yes. Such a benevolent chap. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, you probably wanted to see a bit more of it, didn't you?
Yeah, we basically played one round, and I said that the Library of Alexandria didn't really click with me. I felt I didn't see enough of Everdark for it to click either. I saw, this is how the basic mechanics work, but I was struggling to see where you get the points from and the kind of semi-cooperative nature of it. Because the cooperative nature of it was quite straightforward. Okay, I can move this and help you. And there wasn't much darkness on the board as we were playing. I think there was a couple of spots of darkness. So you were blocking people off just due to dead ends, as it were. And I can see how once a few darknesses are on the board, because they block off movement as well, how they can affect how you cooperate and don't cooperate. But I was struggling to see the advantage in cooperating in the little short slot we had. It could just be because we played such a small slice of it that you were just bet every man for himself. So I was struggling to see the disadvantage of not being a dick.
The idea being that if the darkness gets too big, too much, then everybody loses. Right. So you've got to work together to try and keep the darkness at bay. Yeah. That's where the cooperative element works up. So we played a full game last night. So on our Tuesday night session. So I played it with actually 2 of our heaviest Euro lovers. So yeah, when Dan saw the dice, he went, ugh. Because Dan hates dice. But we played with Will as well, and he doesn't mind dice. So there was a nice mix of players. So we started playing the full game, and it's a lot more cooperative to start with. Yeah. Because you have no reason to piss anybody off. But when you get sort of 2 or 3 rounds in, and you start getting victory points, and darkness starts appearing, and you can gain some of the special abilities that characters can get, and you start buying them. The knives start coming out quite readily because you're trying to protect your lead.
Yeah.
But you're trying to also score victory points as well at everybody else's expense. So the semi-cooperative element definitely comes out, towards the middle of the game and then towards the end of the game. Because you get to a point where, okay, the city's okay, you might be sort of fighting off some of the darkness, but you're still trying to achieve your missions. And to be honest, me getting more victory points is damn sight more important than helping somebody else. So screw 'em.
Okay. So, yeah, maybe it's one of those games where a single turn isn't enough to really fully see the game then.
Very much not, no.
Yeah.
No, you need to play sort of two or three full rounds.
Yeah.
And then you start to feel the pressure of the skier appearing. And also, when you draw a status card, for example, the city changes status every round. One of them, sometimes, you can end up with a timed round. So you get 5 minutes to play the entire round.
Okay.
And that is actually surprisingly good. So everyone, you can't get stuck in analysis paralysis. You have to get a shift on, pull your thumb out their arse and get a shift on, and get through your turn, roll your dice. Right, that's my mission. You'll go. And that's actually really, really, really good.
Okay.
Ed is planning to kickstart that on June 17th.
Right.
Whether he does or not, I don't know. He has admitted that there's a couple of tweaks. When we played it last night, there were a lot. I mean, it was really, really positively received. So, I mean, because everyone else was playing Escape the Aliens from Outer Space. And they were also looking over going, what's that, Andy? That looks really pretty. I said, oh, yes, this is Everdark, one of only 4 copies in the world. So instantly I was a celebrity again. And then we played Android, and Nye came over and said, why are all your games really pretty, Andy? I said, because I'm a sucker for bling now, that's why. But obviously, it's very visually striking. Everdark is so different in terms of its structure and its layout to pretty much any other game out there. So it does stand out really, really well. But everyone was very positive about it. It was a lot of fun. Even the heavy Euro fans really enjoyed the strategy element and sort of planning where your moves go and what all the roads do and how they interlink and stuff.
Yeah.
And trying to make the optimal moves to try and, in 4 actions, what can I do? Well, actually, if I go there, I can kill 4 things at once, and so on and so forth. So there was a bit in it for everybody. I think we all found the combat a little swingy because of the way that you roll a die for the bad guys and you roll a die for the good guys. So you could have a good roll for the bad guys and a bad roll for you, and all of a sudden you're fucked.
Yeah, okay.
So we think there may be a little bit of a balancing issue with that. But this is coming from heavy Euro players who don't like dice. For anyone who doesn't mind a bit of dice and a bit of randomness, they probably won't mind it so much. Like Will didn't really mind it so much.
Okay.
So it very much depends on what Ed's going to go for in that.
Yeah.
So I've got lots of feedback for him. All very positive, all very constructive, and everyone really enjoyed it. So definitely a good game. It was very popular at the stand. Lots of people walked away saying, yeah, we're going to back that. So I think Ed will do quite well.
So, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have time for this evening.
You say unfortunately, they're probably thinking, thank fuck for
Well, I
that.
say unfortunately as well. I want to get some sleep. I'm still tired.
Yeah, some kip would be nice. I've still got to get my car from the bloody garage.
They'll be shut now, won't they?
Yeah, no, it's just parked outside. I need to walk all the way through Malvern for about half an hour and drive it back up again.
God.
Yeah, that's fun. I need to get some dinner as well. I've not eaten yet.
Oh, bloody hell.
25 past 9. I've had no lunch and no dinner. This is dedication, folks. I'm actually starving to death for your entertainment.
He's not starving to death.
It feels like it. I'm pretty hungry.
Oh, you should have seen the amount of calories he put away at the weekend, folks.
Well, there is that, yeah. A chippy, a pork roll, a pizza. And that was just breakfast.
Oh, Sunday night I did get back and I was like, I'm not hungry. I don't need much to eat. I'm just knackered on Sunday. And it's like, what have we got? Oh, I can't bother cooking anything. There's a pizza in the freezer. It's like this huge, I don't know, 9-inch, 10-inch pizza in the freezer. Oh, I'll just have half of that. I'll have the rest of it for my lunch. Sitting there watching telly and I look down at my plate. It's like, oh, I've eaten the entire thing, haven't I?
Good effort. See, I got back. I had about an hour's kip on Sunday afternoon. Thought, right, I'm hungry now. I don't have anything in because my fridge is knackered and it's getting replaced in the next couple of days. So I have nothing really in the fridge that's considered edible. So I thought, right, bollocks to it. I'll order a pizza. So I did. And of course, a pizza takes about an hour to come. So in the hour, or the half hour that I just sort of sat there, I'd completely forgotten that I'd ordered a pizza.
You didn't order another one, did you?
No, I made myself a chicken mayonnaise toasty. And then the pizza turned up. I was like, oh, shit. That's how frazzled my brain was after Sunday.
Oh, dear.
I'd forgotten I'd ordered pizza. That never happens. Usually it's like, where's my pizza? So, yeah, I had about 2 slices of pizza after my toasty, and then went, I don't want that anymore.
Okay, my story's not quite as exciting. I get home, and one of the things I picked up was a copy of Anachrony from your friend Sven.
And nearly put you back
And then they put it back out, to try and take it back to the car. Well, I was quite excited, so I got it home, and I thought, I'm going to start punching this out and learning the rules. Now, if you've ever seen Anachrony, it must be the most complicated game I own. So I took the sleeve off, took the top of the box off, started looking at components. Yeah. I cannot even begin to comprehend punching this out at the moment. I don't know where anything's going to go. And at that point, and every board gamer out there must have had this fear, when you decide you're not going to punch the game, so you're just going to put everything back neatly, and you realise that as you've lifted one of the sheets of cardboard, one of those tokens was punched so perfectly it's been hanging on by the tiniest of chits. So as you lift it up, it pops out and it's like ping across the room.
No! So you had to put it in perfectly to match the pattern.
Yeah, because of that, the lid wouldn't go back in the box then either, would it?
Yep. I mean, if you don't want an Anachrony, Steve, I'll happily take it off your hands.
You're going to love this. You really are.
Yeah, I know. I should have talked to Sven and just go, nah, sorry, Steve. No, he's not selling it anymore. How much do you want for it, Sven?
I still say when we discussed this in the Expo, because we were discussing it with actually the chief operations manager or whatever it was for Gale Force 9, which was really bizarre. Another bizarre conversation the weekend. We talked about Tricerion, which is by the same studio.
Oh, yes.
And I think what we should do is like a little exchange program. You purchase Tricerion and I'll purchase Anachrony, and we'll have both bases covered then.
Good plan. Let's do that.
Anyway, we've fallen down one of our customary rabbit holes. Pizzas and Anachrony. Who would have thought it?
Well, the feedback we got over the weekend was that the rabbit holes are the best bit. We should apparently do it more.
Well, so
I was talking to Andy in the queue for one of the games we'll talk about next time.
Yeah.
But more rabbit holes apparently.
More rabbit holes.
They love the distractions.
Yes. On that note, we have been whittling on for far too long already, and looking at our list, we've probably covered about half the games. So we will come back in a couple of weeks and still be talking about UK Games Expo and our shenanigans, including the Ice Fishing World Championships 2017.
Oh yes, that was a very competitive event.
It was. It was a lifetime achievement taking part in that event, I think. I will leave that mystery to you. So, we should be back in a couple of weeks.
We shall. I shall be refreshed, having had holiday in Scotland.
Ooh. And we might even have Mr. Cage back on.
Hurrah!
Right then. See you in a couple of weeks, chaps. Tatty bye.
Tatty bye.